13 or 14 hats Josh is wearing. So in order to scale this business, we're going to look at the biggest pain points. So one of the things that I'm going to probably look at if I was coming in, Josh, I came off the street and looked at this and everything's running pretty smooth. It's good. I'm probably going to look at this area here first. So this is the area I'm looking at first, the sales part. I'd keep you as the sales leader, but I would go in and take that gentleman who's starting to help you and train him as a production rate based estimating system and get rid of the ability here of these estimates. And we're going to talk about how we do that. The next part here is I'm going in here and I'm focusing on the office. I'm going to hire a CSR, which is a customer service rep. That would probably between those two, those would be my two hires. And that would eventually go in then, and maybe it's a virtual assistant, but we got to start to look at some of these areas and then we build that into our financial plan here where we're going. And that kind of rolls back into this, but it's going to give you a hiring roadmap. And we can start looking for those folks. And we're going to talk about how do we go out and go and find these employees with some really cool job ads that we're going to show you as well. Josh, any questions before I hop off and kind of keep going here?
No, I don't know.
Awesome. So we kind of just got to get out of the chaos sometimes to really understand where we're going. Josh, any questions or thoughts on that before I hop into the next piece?
No, I remember this is bringing like deja vu back with when you and I went through this with me, and I'm like, yeah, my name's also Josh. So I was hitting home. I'm not sure who he was talking to, but I felt it there. So, but this is the stuff that most companies aren't doing though, and the companies that you do see that are killing it and absolutely just the huge companies in your area, this is the stuff they're doing. So if you're wondering like, why the hell is my business not growing? Why is it just kind of stagnant? Why am I still dealing with all these issues over and over again? This is that strategic stuff that needs to be worked on to get to that next level.
Awesome, Josh. Thanks. So now the biggest question, at least for me, is, okay, now that I know where we're going and I know who we need to hire, and I see that I'm doing 15 different jobs based on the size of the business. Let's face it, like Josh is not alone, and Josh is probably being financially responsible, and he probably at his size business should be wearing a lot of those hats. But how do we go in and figure out what are the most important parts of those roles to make sure they happen? Well, we need to go in and actually have some time management or block time. So this is a screenshot of a Google Calendar. So if you're not using Google Calendar, there's a lot of different calendars out there. Google for Business is relatively cheap, $5 to $7 per user, depending on the level, but you can actually build out a calendar. Now on this calendar, there's a couple things I want to talk about. As we know, running a lawn and landscape business with the seasonality, no call, no show employees, hope we're being intentional on who we're hiring, just not 2 feet in a heartbeat. There's going to be some firefighting, and we built some time in here across the board for these areas, but it always doesn't happen at 8 a.m. So what we're going to do is kind of build at least an hour a day in to handle the chaos that's going to ensue, customer complaints, issues, things like that. If we're not dealing with issues in that block, then we're going to start shifting some things. But if we don't build some time in for the chaos, there's not going to be time for the chaos, and the chaos is going to take over our calendar. So it's never perfect. Josh is going to talk about this a little bit later in his experience, but there's some certain areas that I want to talk about really first before we dive into the structure of this. So nobody really likes structure, but our employees really need structure. And if you're a solo entrepreneur with just like 5 or 6 guys and girls working with you, or you got a full blown out office, this structure works from anywhere from $500,000 up to some of our biggest companies are working 10 to 18 million in annual revenue. But the idea here is we're going to go in and look at our leadership meetings. So if you're a leadership team of 1 yourself, or your leadership team of 4 or 5 plus people, this is a time that I'm going to have to block out as the business owner to look at leadership. So when I get to the company scorecard, I'm going to share with you guys, I'm going to talk about what we should be talking on here, but each person, if they own that metric, needs to be reporting out on it and then coming to solutions. So if I'm the head of sales, and we're not hitting our sales goal, I need to be coming to this meeting with solutions of how do we fix that issue. Once again, now people are starting to buy ownership of these things.